What this is a video. It's a video of me walking through my exhibit 1995 when I traveled my exhibit on the 50th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And then following this video, if we have time, there's a wonderful dance performance that was created by Cheryl Flay-Hardy in Hawaii, from the Iona Pair dance theater, it was called then. You probably know them. They're very well known in Hawaii. And okay, there it is. See, there's two pictures. And you should see the dance performance. It's just amazing. It's Buto style. And it was done in the gallery adjacent to my exhibit. And it was mounted like a sculpture exhibit in the gallery. This one has the Holocaust that number on it.
Hiroshima Memorial Project is an art exhibition with community and educational programs related to the 1945 bombing of the town of Hiroshima. The exhibit is scheduled to travel to 4 U.S. cities and Japan. The 35 paper sculptures which comprise the exhibition were inspired by my visit to the Peace Memorial Museum and Park in 1988. And many of them refer to specific videotapes, displays, and artifacts presented at the museum. The pieces that always begin the exhibit are called costumes. They're displayed on mannequins or wire figures. I wanted to have viewers imagine themselves putting on these costumes so that they'd be putting themselves in Hiroshima. I think it's important that Hiroshima be seen as a tragedy for all mankind, not just for those who were there at that time. All 35 sculptures which comprise the exhibition are made of paper. The various treatments are metaphors for the effects of the devastation that occurred in Hiroshima on August 6th when the bombs fell. I didn't want to repel the viewer by depicting the human devastation that occurred in a realistic way. It was important to me to always retain the recognition of paper as the material. My memory of the metal frame, which still remains on the building at the epicenter of the bomb, is combined with the image of the grassy mound covering the mass grave of unidentified bodies. Photographic documentation at the museum shows how profiles of people and plant material were scorched into the surrounding surfaces by the heat of the blast. Keloids were a common injury. There are many artifacts in the Peace Memorial Museum that are evidence of the intensity of the blast, and they show how glass, steel, and other building materials became molten and blended together. The dignity and respect that can be shown when an individual dies was not possible when so many perished. I chose my own legs as the form for the imagery and as the module for many of these sculptures, because I think that the leg of all the body parts is not really immediately recognizable as racial or gender specific. That way I could try to universalize the tragedy. The repetitions of this module suggest that many more people were injured than just the number of people represented by the legs. Despite these ravages, the human spirit endures. I end the exhibit with the angels because I believe we must, in some way, transcend our injuries. The Peace Memorial Museum has a lot of artifacts that remain from the bombing. And when you look at them, you can see the intensity of the blast and the extent of the devastation. What has to be missing is what happened to people. This is the role that I hope the exhibit will fill. The most tragic part of the bombing of Hiroshima is what it did to the people. This is the reason I made the works look the way they do.
Eames Demetrius is Charles and Ray Eames' grandson, and I let him film a film in my studio, and he did this for me in return.
Excellent. Sandy, where did this take place?
The University of Hawaii, Manoa.
Oh,
It was summer vacation, and I had planned, they had a poetry competition in Hawaii, and Cheryl, of course, did this piece, and they had several other events, and the LA Unified School District developed a curriculum for their humanitas programs on the impact of the bomb on art and literature and the science of the bomb. And I was able to get airfare and hotel for 4 teachers from Los Angeles who had developed this curriculum. And I tried to set up something in Hawaii. I didn't realize that, you know, a summer vacation and none of the teachers came. There was one teacher that came to this whole thing, and we dragged, you know, 4, but of course they had a wonderful couple of days in Hawaii, free days in Hawaii. But, you know, we had community and educational programs in every venue. I had a community committee everywhere that, you know, we had seniors come through, we had kids come through, we had a lot of peace groups. The bombing of the testing, underground testing in France was during that time when it was in San Francisco. So all these anti-nuclear groups were able to, you know, do programs at the exhibit. So it became a context for, you know, the exhibit. It wasn't just an art exhibit. It was a place where programming could take place. Now that's kind of the what I'm interested in. This turned out to be a really monumental project. Once I had made commitment to the mayors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I couldn't back out, and I got absolutely no institutional support. And it was like a $250,000 project. And I was lucky to get things donated. The Japanese, Japan Air, and I don't know where the money came from, but I got free flights, free shipping. I have 11 crates that take up almost a whole one car part of a garage that had to travel by boat and then by truck once it got at the dock, and Japanese took care of most of that. Hawaii, I did get a couple of grants, and I got a $5,000 grant from the California Community Foundation for some of the costs. But it took about 4 or 5 years out of my life to plan this thing, and about $40,000 I figured at the end over that period. You know, long distance phone calls to Hawaii. This was before computers, you know, or at least I didn't have a computer, and I didn't have email, and you know, everything was a phone call and a typewritten letter. So I have all kinds of files of, you know, dead ends, you know, trying to get funding, and it was a monumental project. It seemed to be well received where it went.
I'm so sad I didn't get to see it. I don't know why. I'm really sad, but I'm really happy to see it now, and congratulations. And it's very strange since what, tomorrow is the 6th of August?
Yeah, every year I try to get it shown somewhere, and I had one gallery that would have shown the angels, but of course that's a moot question now. So anyway, I wanted to put out this notice because we had a lot of programs planned. The Tokyo Olympics would have frozen, you know, activities at those moments, but the Olympics were canceled. And I have a friend, Richard Fukuhara, photographer, and he was doing Bells for Peace, organizing every, you know, people and companies and organizations, wherever there's a bell, to ring bells at the hour of the bombs. And he passed away suddenly last year, and so that can't take place. So I don't know, maybe it will in some form. I don't know who took over for him. But the video is interesting. It was interesting to me, the video of the dancers. I don't know if you could tell the when the dancers got out of their situation, and they slowly moved toward the doors. And Cheryl had said that they were going to vanish. Their souls would vanish, and they would vanish. And I thought, you know, they're still, you know, people, bodies, human bodies walking there, but they were so convincing in that transcendence that people bumped into the dancers on the way out of the door. They, you know, they moved slowly, and in the audience's mind, they just they had disappeared. And it was an amazing thing. This was in the main gallery of the university. I was in a little side gallery, and I wasn't able to ship a lot of my work there, because I only shipped maybe 1 or 2 crates.
Thank you, Sandy. Took us back to 1994.